What's happening, Hardscapers? Today we're taking oil stains out of pavers, porcelain, natural stone, and sealed pavers. Let's get into this. I've been waiting to do this video for a while. I haven't actually cleaned oil off of pavers for at least 5 years now, and it just hasn't come up that one of my clients needs this done. So we've gone ahead and just picked up pavers, porcelain, natural stone, sealed pavers, factory sealed pavers, and we sealed our own paver. To test this, we poured oil on each of them and we removed it with our oil and grease remover. So I'm going to take you along the process, show you what we did, and show you how each of these different materials accept this oil and how we actually go about removing it and what the ultimate result is with them. So the longer oil has been sitting on concrete, on pavers, on your material, the longer it has to actually penetrate through and into the pavement. And what this oil and grease remover does is it pulls that oil through that pavement. So it might be that you have to do multiple applications to be able to get rid of your oil stain. This is just a matter of pouring some of this on, letting it dry, sweeping it away, and then giving it a few days to actually finally dry, because the pavement will look darker for a few days after actually applying this and sweeping it away. It does take a little bit more time for this citrus-based remover to finally get its way off of that surface. So even though your pavers look darker after applying this and pulling that oil out, it's likely not the oil. So just give it a few days, let it dry, and then see the results afterwards and reapply if needed. And if you want to support the channel in some way, there is an Amazon affiliate link in the description below for one of these oil and grease removers. All these companies are mostly the same when it comes to what it is, that product. Just make sure you follow the instructions and try it on a test area before you go ahead and do the entire area where there is that stain, just to make sure there's no discoloration afterwards. But thank you for supporting the channel if you do go through that affiliate link. Okay, here is our little paver. For this example, I'm going to be using a little splotch of synthetic 2-cycle oil. So we'll let that sit. We'll go to a time lapse here, see that go in and see how it soaks into this. It's a dry cast product, so very porous, and especially in the surface. So we'll see that kind of seep into the surface and we'll try to clean it. We've got our dry cast paver. We've got our sealer. This is a Color Boost water-based penetrating sealer. It's been in my truck for quite a bit, so we'll also see if it actually works here. So I will actually just go ahead and pour it on. So you can see it's a milky white substance. So now we're rolled out on the surface, and I'm just gonna let this dry. We'll test almost immediately. We'll give it probably an overnight and test it in the morning. And I'm gonna pour just a little bit, hopefully. We'll give this a few hours to let it soak in and see what happens. It's completely soaked in. Now what we didn't do is we didn't actually apply a double coat of sealer, which actually we should have done. And so with this one coat of sealer, it completely soaked in. Now we're going to try to remove this now with our oil and grease remover, along with our initial piece, which is not sealed at all. So both of these, we are now going to apply our oil and grease remover, and basically you just pour it on. Make sure that you cover the entire area of the spill and just let it sit. And now it's going to turn into a powdery residue and we can remove it. It should take between 5 and 8 hours. So we're going to go ahead and pour it on. And now also, the longer that stain has been sitting there, the longer it will have soaked into the paver. Remember, pavers are porous. So with those pores, that oil stain is just going to continue to soak down into it the longer that it's been there. So this might be a multiple application just based on however long yours has been sitting with that grease on it. Now this is the sealed paver, so we'll see how that works. We've got them both applied, and we'll come back after some time and we'll set this to a time lapse. We're going to go ahead and scrub these. As you can see, it's just a fine white powder that this turns into, and it's already looking really good. So this is the sealed one. We still do have a little bit of discoloration between this and this. And actually the camera shows it even better. This is the non-sealed one. Now we applied the sealer only once, and it should have been applied twice, and then it should repel. In theory, it should repel the oil. It's also a really old sealer. I think I've had it in my truck for at least a few years. It does look darker, so you can see lighter and darker here from the cleaner itself and not the actual oil. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wet this down, see how it dries over time, and then we're gonna try to seal this one and then stain it with some oil and see if that makes a difference with that second application of the sealer. Probably the sealer is really old. I've already told you it's probably about at least 3 years sitting in my truck, so really old. So we will see how this oil experiment goes here with a sealed paver. So I'll pour a little bit in the corner and we will now turn to time lapse, let it sit. We're gonna give this a wipe, see how this goes. It does look like it did penetrate just a little bit there, but we're gonna give this a rinse, see what happened, and if it did actually penetrate a good amount. And here it is. After we give it a rinse, give it a good wipe, there's not a lot of staining. It does look like it did get into some of those pores, which could be a sealing issue with the application. Once again, old sealer could be also the issue. You can see that it is beading water, so that water's not soaking into it. So it's just on the surface. So we know it is sealed. This is what it would look like more so if it wasn't sealed. So the sides are obviously not sealed, so it does accept water along the sides. You could then apply the oil and grease remover, but I think just giving it a good power washing would remove the rest of it that may have just stuck to the pores a little bit. If you do use the oil and grease remover, it will actually strip some of that sealer, so that's something to think about as well there. And here's a dry cast product paver that's actually been sealed, and it's actually been factory sealed. And with a factory sealed product, you'll actually see a little bit of that sheen there, but also you'll see it a lot better if you look at the side profile. You can see that that top layer, tiny little bit there, has been sealed, and you can see drip marks coming down the side there. So it's very evident that this has been sealed. Now I'm gonna pour some oil on it. We're gonna let it sit, and we're gonna see what this does and what the cleanup is like. Here we are after about 3 hours. It hasn't soaked in like it did with the dry cast paver, or the dry cast paver that was not sealed, and the sealer just seems to be holding it. There's a little bit on the edge there. We'll see if I start to clean it up, if that actually comes off, or if that's actually seeping into the pores of the concrete. And we'll take this and give it a good wipe now. It looks good. It looks like it completely came off. So the sealer, and another reason why you might want to actually use a sealer, is for simple and easy cleaning like that. Because without the sealing product, our paver is just going to soak up that oil. Once again, we've wiped this one, same type of product, same dry cast concrete. The only difference is this one was not sealed at all, and this one is factory sealed. And this is natural stone. So in our pursuit of seeing how oil is gonna affect different materials, we're gonna see how pouring some oil on this natural stone is going to affect it, and if we can indeed actually remove it from the surface, from the stain. So I'm gonna pour a little bit in this corner, and there we are. And this is limestone, so this is Aramosa limestone, and it is porous, so it will, in my opinion, start to soak into through the surface and into the slab as we let it be here. So I'll turn this to time lapse and see how this goes and then try to remove it. Our piece of natural stone has been sitting for a couple of hours now. It looks like the oil is mostly soaked in, so we're gonna give it a quick wipe. And as we see here, it has soaked into the material. And now we're gonna go ahead and apply our oil remover to see how this works on natural stone now. After letting this dry, here's where we are at. So we will now apply our degreaser after I shake it up, and we'll cover the area, and we will return and see how this goes. So we're gonna continue to scrub off this powdery substance to get down to see what has been left with this natural stone. So I'm gonna start scrubbing, and as this comes off, it looks like it got the oil stain out of it. And once again, we have that dark discoloration, which is supposed to go after a few days of drying there, and it looks pretty good. And by the time we actually let this sit overnight, this is what the final result looks like for our natural stone here. The porcelain's going to perform really well. It does not let a lot through. It is very non-porous. About 2% actually gets through to it. So this is the benefit to porcelain, but we're going to test this anyways and give it a go. I'm basically just going to wipe this off now and see what residue is there. It looks perfect to me. It looks just as it did before we put on the oil. Comparing our before and afters here, we've got the before and after of our dry cast paver along with our 1-coat dry cast paver. We have our before and after of our 2-coat sealed product, same dry cast paver. We've got our before and after of our factory sealed paver. And we've got our before after of our natural stone and our before and after of our porcelain stone. We're going to be continuing to do this series in our controlled environment here with other stains on top of each of these different materials that we discussed in this. So at the end of the video, there'll be some recommended playlist with all of these different cleaning solutions for all these different materials. I hope this video's helped you in some way. If it has, please give it a like. That really helps us with this channel. Comment below any questions that you may have or maybe any future content that you want to see, and subscribe to this YouTube channel for more hardscaping content like this. Thank you so much for watching.